smile.
All right, we should be broadcasting now.
Okay, let me see.
There's a little bit of lag. I hope that didn't do anything crazy. All right, so the Facebook notification just popped up. Bada bing, bada boom. Better silence my smartwatch so people don't complain about that in the hate mail I get next. Yeah, the hate is real. It drives me nuts. All right, let's see here as we're getting set up. Ba-da-bum-bum. So I did a little song last night.
Oh?
Like an improv song, like in the beginning of the podcast. I was like, ba-da-dum-bum, ba-da-bum-bum. And I was talking about Jon Snow being like a cardboard cutout.
Mm.
And I don't think
He is.
appreciated it.
I need a Jon Snow cardboard cutout for sure.
Alyssa and Ricky.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Ray.
Alyssa says my song was great. Thank you. I'm glad somebody appreciates that. I used to sing songs for intros a lot back in the old school. But I haven't done it. That's why I wanted to do it because it was like the last episode. I thought it'd be fun. Thought it would kind of loosen up my team because they were fucking tight last night. Holy shit. Hey, Shayna. We have 2 Shaynas.
Ooh. And you have 2 Andreas now.
Unless that's the same thing. Yeah. I got a lot of
When did we get so many Andreas?
Well, there's only one Mistress of Whispers. That's you.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know. I can't even tell you how many messages I got. Like,
I really need to develop that moniker you've given me.
you got it. So we're going to get started in just a moment. Oh, thank you. And I hope that you're enjoying the podcast, and I hope that you realize that a lot of what we do is, in terms of like when it really goes off the rails, some of it is passion, but we are performing. I mean, we are performers. We're podcasters / video people, and some people don't get that, and I know not everyone's going to like everybody. That's just the way it is. But a lot of what we do is to try to get people to laugh and say, "What the fuck did he just say?" Or "What just happened?" Hello, Mag. I was trying to explain what a podcast was to a coworker today. And
explain it to me.
You'd think that a coworker who is 21 years old would know what that is. And he said to me, I have no idea what a podcast is. I said, well, imagine, radio is like people talk to you. Mm-hmm. Or they talk at you, like, hey, welcome to WWMTV 927 on the FM dial. Listening to all the greatest classic rock hits of the 90s. It's like, and then they're like, hey, it's 7:00. Do you know where your parents are? They're watching Game of Thrones.
And we should really develop that.
Right? Traffic at 9.
The next time we all do a show, all of us, I need you to host the whole show in that voice specifically. Just do it.
Ooh, Chris Gray here from Total Nerd Takeover Studios, bringing at you the Behind the Iron Throne. And we got traffic on the twos. But it's funny because I hate radio. Yeah, Shayna, Sunday. It's because they talk at you. And what I like about podcasting is the whole purpose of it is to make you, or to help you feel like you're with people, like sitting next to you on the couch, having a conversation, having a beer. And yeah, occasionally a dog barks or a soda can drops or something. But that's just how it is.
I'm actually going to put some light on the subject here.
I spend a lot of money on the studio, and I try to make it as soundproof as possible. For not it being, I'm in a basement, for God's sake.
And what a beautiful basement it is in your beautiful new home.
Why, thank you. I appreciate it. Some people may have seen my YouTube video where my old was up in the loft, and it got so. I was sweating bullets, especially in the summertime here in Pennsylvania. It gets really hot, but it's humid. It was really humid, so I'm up there sweating, and like I'd cut the camera off real quick, turn the air conditioner on, and I'd be like, oh. Oh my God. Okay.
Well, you're in Pennsylvania, for Christ's sake.
Well, you'd think that I lived in like Arizona where it's really hot or somewhere else like in the desert, but Pennsylvania gets really humid. It's
It's the
disgusting.
humidity. That's why I left the
Terrible.
East Coast. I'm telling you, when I made my decision to leave New Hampshire, which wasn't really a hard decision to make because I fucking hate the East Coast, I was so done with it. Everyone was like, "Why California? Why not Florida?" Because that seems to be the place where everyone goes when you live in the East Coast. When you retire, everyone just goes to Florida, and I'm like, the whole point is to get away from this backward ass humidity thing that you guys have going on. I was raised in Alaska, so no humidity for me. I don't want any part of it. And then I moved to Monterey, of course, and I sit literally like if I walk to the beach right now, it'd probably take me like 30 minutes because of where I'm at, just because of roads and things like that. But I can get in the car right now and I'm 2 minutes away from the beach. I can see the ocean from my bedroom window. So of course there's some humidity, obviously, in Monterey, California, but it's nothing like it is in the East Coast. And I don't need an air conditioner to run my household correctly.
Pittsburgh. Shane is in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I've been to Pittsburgh. Nice. Alyssa from New Jersey. I'm gonna say this name wrong, and I do this every time. I'm so sorry.
Danielle says,
Cassia. Cassie? Cassia.
Cassia.
Cassia. How come I
And
can't get that
you
right?
got her name right last week, and she shouted you out for it. She goes,
Bitch.
"Chris, you finally got my name right. You said it
She's
right.
from Australia,
She's from Australia.
which is awesome. I Facebook
Yeah, you do, Jim.
talked to you the other day
She's so
just to
dope.
see where you're from. The sun is evil. I agree. I'm even though Superman is my favorite superhero, if you can't tell. But he's all about the sun, and I'm like all about the moon. I'm like Bizarro. And if you listen to a lot of our podcasts, I'm like Bizarro. Definitely bizarre. Taintly faded Florida here. Awesome. Humid with a side of humidity. And you guys have giant bugs. Last time I was in Florida,
Ugh.
bug, like a mosquito, like
Oh,
a golf ball.
they're horrible.
Nasty son bitches.
And in Alabama, there's these flies that fly around that like mate in the air, like right in front of you. It's like the worst, and like they're everywhere, and they just fly really slow. They're just kind of floating around. Like there's no getting around them. Your
Surely.
cars, everything are like covered with them. They're called love bugs, I think. They're disgusting. Oh God, I hated the South, and I love the South for so many reasons. I hate the South for the bugs, and I hate the South for the humidity and the red dirt. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Robert, yay, New Jersey also. So you and Alyssa know that you guys have those green head flies that actually bite you.
Oh, the horsehead flies? They have them in
Yeah.
New Hampshire too. They're
Oh, they're
mean. On York Beach, oh, they're terrible.
Love bugs. Taintly faded said love bugs. They're in season here. That sucks.
Oh,
And
yeah, I'm
John,
sure they are.
they're Canada. Yay, Canada.
Down south, that's how it goes.
Yeah,
It's-
Gainesville. Love bugs, Stefan. Yikes. Fire ants. Yep.
But
Kosh B, Texas. That's where Trish is from. Part owner of this company.
I don't know what that means, Steven. Love bugs were created at the UOFF. What does that mean?
University of.
I understood that was university for the record, you guys.
Was it?
Well, I understood that was a U, but I have no idea. University of something of Florida.
Oh, Florida.
Of course. They were created. They were like manufactured, like a science experiment. Some asshole created a damn bug, and then they let them go. Of course they did, because humans. This is the reason why we have a Song of Ice and Fire, for the record.
When you play the game of genetics, you're
Idiots.
just Big E, yay! Big E's from New York. Nice. I love New York. I go to New York Comic Con. If I go this year, maybe I'll post it and see if anyone wants to meet me there.
I love to pass through New York. I don't like to shower in New York.
I do water treatment, and New York has pretty good water. Just saying.
The Bronx definitely didn't.
So I guess we're good to go. We've been kind of messing around here for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I just have to mention that if you're watching live and we run out of time, which I hope we're going to be on time tonight, you can join us at Get Vocal. And I know some people like it, some people don't. I enjoy it. I think that's how I'm being able to do it on Facebook and YouTube and Get Vocal. And it's really cool when you're in here in the app too, because after the live broadcast stops, we're still here in Get Vocal Live recording the podcast part. And then you can come in here, and I'll try to announce it like as we get closer, and I'll put the links in the different show. And what kind of Facebook activity we have, Andrea?
We have 8 viewers right now, including myself. And I have Andrea. I have John. I have Trish was here for a moment.
The Android is difficult. I'm so sorry, Shayna. And Danielle says, I moved to get vocal from Facebook. Boom. Awesome.
Yeah, it's dope. I'm just going to write in here. And if anybody's watching the Facebook feed and you want to make sure that your comments are read, or at least, we get around to your comments or something that's similar to your comment, you have the option of joining us on Get Vocal. It's an app that you can download for free in the App Store on iTunes or in the Android store. And it's super easy to get in there. You'll see us line right up as a live feed, and you can just jump right in and join the conversation over there. It's super easy.
We're famous here. Alex, the owner, and his engineers, and they're always helping us. And they treat us like we're celebrities. I love it. My ego is like this big. When you got
a big ego.
I do. And I have a Dunk-a-Dunk. And I can shit. Okay, I'll put a link in that chat. Hold on one moment.
Okay. Can you pin it?
I'm gonna put it in Command B. It is now in bam. It's now in YouTube. All right. So Andrea, you can't do it there, can you?
I don't have the capability to do it right here, but if you can put it in chat, I can try to pin it.
Let me see if I can get it on. Oh, I can get it on the Facebook. Hold on.
Oh goodness, I'm gonna mute me. Mute me.
Oh, she muted herself. Okay, good. So I'm going to post this in the live, in the YouTube, or I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, in the Facebook. And then it'll be everywhere. Command B. Bam, there it is. Hello, Randy. Yeah, I don't know, Robert. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's not. It depends. It's so, yeah, that's funny, Jim. It's so easy. Edmure could do it. Gold star. All right.
So on Get Vocal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was surprisingly easy to get on and then just have you guys pop right up when you're getting ready to go live. Because I think you just schedule it, right? And so then it pops up in the feed when it gets close.
Yeah, basically. Yep.
That's pretty dope. It's so easy.
It makes everything so easy. All right, I approved Rebecca to the group. You're welcome.
Hi, Irina.
What's up, Julie? My sister Julie's in the chat.
Hi, Julie.
Okay, so let's begin.
Okie dokie.
And let us begin.
I'm following your lead.
All right. So you sound good. You sound louder than you did last episode, so that's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think I had a shitty pair of headphones on. That's why I wanted you to tell me how these ones sounded.
Also, I didn't have you set up at the right levels. So that sucked. Give me one more mic check, please.
Mic check, mic check. Wake the dragon.
All right. So that should be good. I'll try to adjust it as we go, if I have to. Okay. So let me play this and let's get started.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers. This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones podcast.
Love that intro. It's my favorite podcast intro of all time. I may be biased. Just saying.
It's pretty dope.
Okay, so let's do it's how do you say it again?
Cassia. It's a high C.
Oh, see, that makes sense. I'm so sorry. I really hate. I get you don't understand when I pronounce the name wrong. I beat myself at night when no one's watching. With like a cat of nine tails, but on the end of it, they're sharp.
That's the thing about how we've been evolving in the last 20, 30 years or so. Everyone's coming up with these new names that can be pronounced millions of different ways. It just comes down to...
My name's pretty boring.
Chris. How could we pronounce Chris in a way that would be more bougie?
Well, if we do Christopher, you could go like Cristablo.
Christoph.
Oh, I like
With a K
I
instead of a
like
C. Let's do it.
I like it. All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Yes, it is Kiki. Not the kink. Here we go. In 3, 2. Radio voice on. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Behind the Iron Throne. And I'm your host, Christopher Gray. And I'm joined tonight by the lovely and talented, the amazing Mistress of Whispers, Andrea. What is up?
I'm totally not going to go there. You sounded like Mario and Luigi for 5 seconds, and I am doing good. Having a lot of fun here with you so far. And I have my Diet Coke, and I'm ready to talk some Game of Thrones.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to talk some Game of Thrones, and we got some shout-outs to do. In getvocal.com, where we are live right now, unless you're listening to this podcast later, which is in the past because we're in the future. We have Jim. Welcome to the podcast. We have Shayna. We have Stefan. We have Danielle. We have Rob. Over in the good old YouTube, we have, and I'm going to go through the list right here, and this is really awesome because I can go look at participants. We have Big E. We have Gino. We have my sister, Julie. We have Mag. We have Randy. We have Robert. We have Shayna. And, of course, we have Cassia. I think I said it right that time. I said Mag, right? We did that. We have Robert. We have Cash. We have Randy. We have, who else is in there? Let me get all the names in here. It's important to me. Cash B. We have John Fury. That's Jonathan Stoma, Stark, Lever, King of the Wicker People. He is Lord Ductarian of the North. Taintly Faded is here, or was here, but you'll be back, I'm sure. And it is great to have all you guys in the chat. How about you, Facebook? What do you got in Facebook, Andrea?
I am actually just saying hello to Angela. We have Rose, Rebecca, Irina was here. I'm not sure if she's still in here, but I think so. We have Lord Bags, Jonathan Stomas. I think I have Trish. I'm not positive. I know that Andrea is here with me, and Ray is here too. I have to know how Andrea feels. Okay, I'll get to you, Andrea. Chris is running the show tonight because I'll just run away.
Cassia says, you can put an Aussie spin on your name, Chris, and say, Chriso. Now, I like my name. Don't get me wrong. I know Julie.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But Chriso, it sounds good. I like it. We could do that.
Totally sounds something Aussie. Chriso.
We were talking about this, if you're listening to podcasts and you're not live, obviously. We were talking about this pre-show, and this is some of the stuff you guys miss if you're not with us live. How can you get to us live? Well, it's very easy. You can go to behindtheironthrone.tv, or you can go to facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. You're seeing a pattern, right? Make sure you sign up for a club, BTIT. Behind the Iron Throne, BTIT. That's our little hashtag. That's the name of our club, BTIT forever. Or you can go to a really awesome program, either on the App Store for Android or iPhone. It's free. It's amazing. Or get it on Chrome and go to GetVocal, GetVocal.com. Check it out. Behind the Iron Throne. Google search it. You'll see a picture of my dumbass face and you'll say, hey, there he is. It's Bizarro Man. Let's listen to his podcast. And let's send him bad feedback and hate mail because he loves it. Oh, I do.
He does.
It's amazing.
Feels inspired.
Be tit for life, Mag. Yes, indeed. But I want to say big shout out to you guys. You're an awesome community. We're going to talk about this is part 2 of the series finale with Andrea and myself. This is episode 220, recorded May 21st, 2019. Woo! I want to mention that we're going to do a feedback episode this coming Thursday. That'll be the 23rd. At 8:30 p.m. Andrea, will you be on that podcast?
I do believe so.
Yahtzee. We're going to answer a lot of questions tonight, and mostly that's going to be the big question night for the community. It's all about you guys and gals. On May the 27th, 2019, we're going to be reviewing the behind the scenes for the Game of Thrones. It's coming out next Sunday night. So we're doing that, and Andrea, we're probably gonna do an episode on that Tuesday. Also, the 20th.
Are we doing like the behind the scenes for like the entire like season?
Yeah. Yes, okay. Indeed. We have Biggie says 7 out of 10 for the finale. That's awesome. Chrissy-fer. Who said Chrissy-fer? Oh no, my sister said that. Oh God, I'm gonna just skip right on over that garbage. Randy says, I checked out Nerd Theater. Good stuff. Thank you so much. Nerd Theater, just real quick, because we are coming to an end on everything, Game of Thrones. If you want to follow everything we do, Total Nerd Takeover Studios, or TNRT is the name of our company. And one of the podcasts we're still recording is Nerd Theater, where we review the shit out of movies. And if you don't like yelling and hollering and screaming and arguing and a whole bunch of bullassery, you're not going to like the show. We like to have fun with it. It's all for a comedy. Go ahead, Andre.
Something's up with your camera. It's a little distorted.
Oh, it's auto-focusing.
Okay.
I got to fix that, but it's a
all
pain
right.
in the butt. Pain in the butt. Okay, so I think I got all the announcements done. And big shout out to Stefan, who made it back to the live and Get Vocal.
Jeremy Alere, Stephen Lewis, and Emily all joined us as well on Facebook.
Awesome. Hope you guys don't mind if I'm drinking my protein drink. I'm on a special diet.
He's getting buff.
Yeah, I'm trying to get buff. Come on.
So he can save the world.
So, Andre, we're going to start kind of backwards. And I want to know what your sword rating is for the episode. I want to know what it is for the season. Yeah, that's a tough one. You
I wasn't expecting that one.
You can say that if you want. You can say that. But at least for this episode, any highlights before we start to dig in really, really deep? Because I got a bunch of questions I want to ask you about the theme.
I'm really fucked up in the head about this last episode in so many levels, and I don't know how to feel about it. So I was prepared to lose an abundance of characters that I didn't actually end up losing, and for that reason alone, I have to say that I'm okay with it. With the way that things ended for Jon, bittersweet, obviously, which was a deliver, and so for that matter alone, I have to say that the episode delivered on bittersweet for sure. The more and more I watch over it, the more content I am with the episode. My heart won't let me give it 10 swords. So I'm saying 8. 8 swords.
That's a good score. That's a good score. I think I gave it 7 last night. And I want to thank the people that wrote me emails saying that I should die for only giving it 7. I would read your names, but I don't really feel like giving you credit. But it was funny. Like, I don't know, 10 is absolutely perfect. There is no such thing as perfect, in my opinion. So no one's ever going to get 10. I mean, not even my favorite superhero is ever going to get 10. Superman. It's not going to happen. However, I think that 7 isn't bad considering. I mean, I this episode, I've watched it twice now. And in the second time, after I've calmed down from yesterday, I have a little bit different perspective on it. I see the bittersweet thing. I enjoyed it. I'm glad we had some kind of closure. I think it was good. Definitely better than what I thought it was going to be. Not, I don't want to say perfect. There's somebody going to hate me for that. It wasn't amazing to me. And I think what has me more distressed about it was not so much that it was bad, it is that it's over. And I haven't gotten over that yet.
And so there's no closure.
Right. And when we re-review the entirety, I might change my rating. When I've come to grips that the show is over. I mean, I really, really love the show. And I got to try to take, I look at it as a reviewer instead of just as like a fanboy, if that makes any sense.
Right. It does. It makes perfect sense, which is why I try to remove my emotions from the show and look at it objectively whenever I watch it. I obviously have strong feelings towards certain characters. And I think that all of us are human in that aspect. We feel more strongly towards more different characters than others. Jon specifically is a great example of that. But objectively, if I'm looking at the show as a work of art, somebody's work, how do I feel about it? I mean, I love it.
Now, Zach B sent us some feedback, 2 emails I want to read, and I thought they were good. It says, "Hey, B Tit Gang, love you guys. You make my drives to work and home so much better listening to you.
Thank you.
I will miss you." Oh, yeah, awesome. I will miss you guys. We're not going anywhere yet. Here is my question and my thoughts. Looks like when all was said and done in the end, Jon's real name and his parentage never really mattered, and that was just a plot twist that ended up not being a twist at all. He never becomes king. He still swears loyalty to Dany and the world, except for a few. Never knew who he actually is. Question, what is the panel's opinion of the impact of Jon's secret did or didn't have on the end game of the series? That's part 1 of the question. And the other part I wanted to read was a response to the podcast last night, because I'd said something that a lot of people disagreed with. Let's see. It is bada bing from Zach. I'm listening to the podcast and everyone's saying, this is episode 219 that he's talking about. And everyone's saying that Ned wouldn't have killed Danny, and what John didn't, and what John did wasn't honorable. I say, fuck that. Robb Stark was the only Stark who had the balls of steel to do anything. Let's not forget, he is 2 out of 0 in wars. He would have killed Danny and Cersei himself. Thanks, Zachary B. Thank you so much for the email. And I got another one that I'm going to read. Another feedback I'll read after we talk about this. So this is a question I was going to ask you, Andrea. Jon Snow being Rhaegar Targaryen,
His son.
I'm sorry, Aegon Targaryen. Did it matter? Like, what was the point of that?
So I think that this is a big argument that the fandom has all the time is what was the point? Why? Why does he have to be Aegon Targaryen? Why does Rhaegar need 2 sons named Aegon? Why is his name so important? Why the fuck does he have to be a trueborn? Why can't he just be a bastard? Why is his name so important? And it really bothered people. Like, you have to be royalty in order to be somebody who's worth doing anything. And ultimately, that was never the point of the entire exchange. The point is that Jon Snow has struggled with his identity from the very first chapter, the very first episode of the very first season, or the very first book. Knowing who he is, understanding who he is, where he came from, his origins, understanding that he was either not a mistake or he was a mistake, but just having closure, that was the point of all this. So it wasn't to claim the Iron Throne. It wasn't to, conquer over people or insert his rights or make him feel like he's above people who made him feel like he was below them for so long. It was for closure for himself so that he can move forward with his life and not worry about, siring bastards or living in his father's shadow or all of these things. This was never about Westeros for Jon. It was always about knowing who he was, where he came from, and his origins. And for that reason, that's exactly why Jon needed to know who he was. He needed to know who his mother was. He needed to know who his father was, and he needs to know that he wasn't shame on Ned's honor. And I think that's one of the things that really bothered him the most was feeling like he was, a stain on his father's honor. So, in my opinion, I think that it ended exactly where it should have. Jon didn't want the Iron Throne. He shouldn't have to sit a throne because it's his name, because his name says that he should sit a throne and he should lead people. You know what I mean? He didn't. At some point, when does what Jon Snow actually wants matter? And I think that it ended in a place where there is closure, where he actually does get what he wants. He wants to be free. He wants to make sure that people are safe and happy, and he doesn't want people senselessly killing one another. And so that is what Aegon Targaryen wanted. You know what I mean? He wanted no wars, essentially, which is why he conquered the 7 kingdoms. And in that essence, Jon fixed it so it would never be like that again. You know what I mean? They broke the wheel. So it was never about the Iron Throne. And I think that we all get caught up on the idea of who the rightful heir is. The throne didn't deserve to go to any one specific person. It deserved to go to the person who would be able to do right by the people. And in this moment, Jon made sure that it was left in a place where he could do right by the people. He did right by the people.
So let me ask you this. This is a good question from Mag. And I'm going to try to integrate a lot of the questions from the audience here. And you let me know, Andrea, if you have anything in Facebook as well. Because this kind of pertains to what we're talking about. It says, I guess, why then did Bran push Sam to tell Jon, and why did Jon feel the need to tell his sisters? And I'm going to let Andrea answer this the intelligent way, because she is the mistress of whispers. And I'm going to try to answer this from the show perspective only. Because I read the books, but I don't break them down like Andrea does. I'm just not that damn good. I think that I was disappointed when we found out that Jon Snow is a Targaryen, because it felt like it didn't go anywhere. However, it had something to do with his character in terms of his thought process, and I think that it ended up being a conflict to Dany to progress her into the decision making that she made. Now, is that really good writing? I don't think so. Is that what I wanted to see? Oh, hell no. But it is what it is at this point. Now, in terms of why he had to tell Sansa and Arya, Bran said it was your choice. You didn't have to tell anybody. And I think he did because Jon Snow is honorable like his, I think his true father, Eddard Stark. And that was his character, to tell the truth, whether or not it's going to get you killed or in trouble. And that's just my opinion on it. And I could be totally wrong. So let's see what Andre has to say. And you are muted. And I didn't do it.
But I did it myself. I said, can you go back to the original question really quick? I just want to make sure I understand it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we were asking the question of why does it matter that Jon was a Targaryen? The actual question itself was, let me see here. Why did Bran push Sam to tell Jon, and why did Jon feel the need to tell his sisters?
Okay, so I think the obvious answer here, and this actually goes with a couple of questions that I have in here that I want to actually just kind of tie this to. Irina asks, my biggest question for both of you is how much or how little did Bran the Three-Eyed Raven or whatever know, or whatever he is now, influence the events and overall outcomes in the show? That seems to be the big debate right now, because I feel like he did not influence much. So the reason why I wanted to pull this up and tie it to the question that was originally asked is because the debate is, how much can Bran actually see? Can he see only the past and the present, or can he see the past, the present, and the future? And this is a book debate more than anything. And the answer is he can see past, present, and future. But a future is not certain. It's made up of different variables, right? So it was Jon's choice to share the information or not share the information. Once he decided to share the information, that information was out in the environment, and then the future changes into something different. So what Bran may have saw before that event in time happened is something that may change after. That's kind of a butterfly effect, if that makes sense. Again, I think that what, like one of our listeners said, it was to push Dany's story forward. Jon needed to see the true Dany, or the Dany that Dany had been hiding or suppressing, in order to see what he would be sacrificing, and who he would be and what he would be sacrificing it to. You know what I mean? And without that bit of information, we couldn't have had that final, bit of confirmation on how far away Dany had moved. So I do think that Bran pushing Sam to reveal the truth is a way of pushing Dany's story forward. Bran didn't look happy at all to see Dany when she arrived at Winterfell. I mean, the look on his face was, he didn't really care about seeing anybody, but he did actually have a little bit of joy on his face with Jon and Arya, I feel like. But when he's looking at Dany, and it's not even so much how he looks at her, it's the tone of his voice. We don't have time for this. It was like Dany was almost very annoying to her. And he didn't care one way or the other. Instead of trying to convince Jon that she was no good, he let Jon use the tools that were available to him to reveal the truth, because Jon knows nothing.
Now, Danielle says in the Get Vocal, he wanted his whole life to be a brother to Sansa, and he didn't want to close the door that he waited so long to open.
Okay.
There's a lot of different reasons, I think, and regardless of how we feel, and we can break this down also in another episode, we can kind of, tear into that in and of itself. But it's what happened. Like I said, I wasn't really happy with the whole play down on the Targaryen thing. I wanted to see that be more important or bigger, and it just didn't happen. And that's why I'm still conflicted on this episode. I'm glad that it's over. I'm sad that it's over. I liked it and I hated it at the same. Well, I didn't hate it, but I liked it and I don't like it at the same time. So yeah, there you have it. Now, next question was, where was I with the next question? Oh my God, I totally lost my train of thought. So there was another question that we had that was asked, and that was, Jon, so would Ned have killed Dany? How about this? Jon Snow, by killing Dany, was that honorable or not honorable?
So that's a really good question. And I just want to say that when you look at Jon Snow's character, this isn't the first time he was faced with such a decision. The first person he was faced with that decision with was Ygritte. And he asked himself, would my father do this? Irina, I know that you know what I'm talking about. It's in book 2. He's, face to face with Ygritte, and he's being charged to execute her because she's a wildling, and he chooses not to because he's asking himself, what would my father do? What would my father do? Would my father deliver this justice, right? And eventually he decides that she's a woman and she doesn't deserve to die because she didn't commit any crimes. And so he chooses to let her live. And this is how he stole her. So the irony in the situation is he's actually faced with doing the same thing again with Dany. And this is really the show coming full circle. I mean, seriously, it's literally every aspect of it comes full circle. Bran wanted to be a Kingsguard, and fell from a tower and was told he'd never be a Kingsguard. But what did Bran actually end up doing in the end? He guarded the king, and he sent him north of the wall where he could be free, because that's what Jon wanted. He didn't want to sit in a fucking Iron Throne. He didn't want to sit in a chair. He didn't want to rule over people. But he was chosen by the free folk. He sent him back to the free folk. He guarded the king. So yeah, we're all coming, full circle in that aspect. You have to really think about it. I think that Ned would have killed her, honestly. But also, it's not really about what Ned would have done in that situation. It's more about what Rhaegar would have done in that situation, because that's where the parallel was. He had the opportunity to choose to save an innocent woman or to condemn a guilty one. And he chose the right way the first time, and he chose the right way the second time. Dany needed to be stopped. There was no reasoning with her at that point. They don't get a choice, is what she said.
Yeah, and it reminds me of Jaime Lannister, when he stabbed the Mad King in the back. He's a Kingslayer, and now Jon Snow is the kind of Queen Slayer, if you even could consider her the queen, although she did pretty much destroy, King's Landing, and basically she was the king, or the queen. She's like, look, here I am, your asses are mine. However, I think that, and this is me answering this, I think that what Jon Snow did was dishonorable in and of itself of the action, if that makes sense. Murder is wrong, period. And that's just my moral thinking. And of course, this is the Game of Thrones, so totally different rules. However, what he did was right. Does that make sense? He saved a lot of people from getting. She was going to go out there and thrash the entire Planetos.
So
she was not going to stop in Westeros.
No, I agree 100%. But I also want to say that that's kind of the point in the situation, is that everyone, even you and I, live morally ambiguous lives. What may seem absolutely 100% abhorrent to you in the situation might also be absolutely 100% what's required, right? And that's basically what you're saying. And that's really the point, that there is really no right or wrong in the situation. It's wrong no matter what you do. It's wrong to let her live. It's wrong to kill her, but she has to go. You know what I mean? And it makes you really sit back and question, am I the bad guy or am I the good guy in the situation? In which case, all you can do is try to live a morally decent life.
In the chat, Cassia says, I still wanted more closure on Jon's revelation, that he was the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, even if it was to give Jon the role to say no to being king after Dany's death. And I'm kind of surprised, quite honestly, that when Tyrion was brought before that council, he didn't say Jon Snow. I was waiting for him to say Jon Snow. And then, and I talked about this last night, when he actually said Bran the Broken, I almost shot shit out of my nose, out of my drink, out of my nose, onto my big screen TV. I literally just got, and I'm like, oh, no, you didn't. I'm thinking to myself, this is just crazy. And there you have it. I was totally blown away. So were you a little bit shocked by that, Andrea?
By
the whole Jon Snow not being called out to be the king by Tyrion during that little meeting that they had, and it was Bran.
No. I'll tell you why. Because Bran, had he not been king, would have served no purpose after this. He would have gone back to the Isle of Faces or something like that, and he would have remembered things, but then who would have been the next Three-Eyed Raven? Who would have done something important with their life? And they made this huge deal about why the Night King wanted to kill Bran, about his memory and wiping that memory from, Earth. At that point, I started to think about all the things that I've, listened to as far as George R. R. Martin's interviews and his idea on the how, where power should be placed and who's deserving of what, etc. And it really, resonated with me that Bran is the best possible choice. Who's the best possible master of whispers? Somebody who actually can see things coming from all sides. Who's the best possible person to guard the realms of men other than somebody who can see things coming from all sides? Bran is the most likely of choices. And pressuring Jon to do something after he's sacrificed so much just seems like the wrong thing to do. Jon has the North in him, you know what I mean? And so I never expected, especially when they reacted the way that they did about releasing Tyrion, and the idea of saying, okay, well, we elect Jon Snow and that's that. You have Yara Greyjoy, you have the Prince of Dorne, and all of these other people who are like, well, we pledged ourselves to Dany, who weren't going to support that. At that point, it would have turned into another bloodbath. And so the minute that Yara spoke up, she's our queen, and he killed her, whether he did the justifiably right thing or not, it was still going to create another conflict, because are the Lords of the Vale going to actually, side with Jon? He's, the bastard, and Edmure, who is Catelyn Tully's brother. They all, looked at him his whole entire life as a stain upon Ned Stark's honor, or, an insult to his sister, all of these things. The likelihood that they would support him, whether he did the right thing or the wrong thing in the situation, was seeming less and less likely. It would have just been Arya and Bran and Sansa, and then Arya would have had to murder everyone.
As Daniel says in Get Vocal, isn't it the point when you think you're absolutely right and you can't waver, you're absolutely wrong? That's kind of like the whole Obi-Wan talking to Anakin, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Wait, did you just deal in absolutes?
He said that to me. Somebody said that to me the other day too. Oh, it was Armani.
Nice. Let's see here. And Daniel says, as long as you live inside the gray area, you have hope. And in the chat on YouTube, Don't Throw to 20 says, this whole series makes me question if the Night King was ever the real villain.
He wasn't.
If anything, he was karma for all the lying, betrayal, sins, war, and murdering. I agree. Now, it's funny because there's a lot of memes going around with the Night King. Like, I tried to save you from Bran. And as funny as it is, I kind of feel like, yeah, I mean, there's equality there. Everyone is the same. You're a half-rotten zombie that just stands there. So yeah, maybe he wasn't the big bad villain. It's funny when you say that.
Well, I think that was really the point. In the end, we were sitting here, we're thinking that an army of the dead is coming for us. It's going to kill us all. And we're not going to be, we're not going to have our own free will. We're not going to have our own, freedom of choice, all of these things, all of the passions, all of the fires that drive us, to be the individuals that we are will be gone and they'll be extinguished. Therefore, you must be the enemy, right? But then you have people like Cersei Lannister who are piling innocent people into the Red Keep so that she can use them as cannon fodder. And you have people like Daenerys who is like, well, she didn't bend the knee to me, so I'm going to murder a million people that are innocent because I want to blame Cersei because she didn't bend the knee to me and I tried to do it the peaceful way. And now they're just going to see, So which one of these situations are actually the ones that you can sympathize with? The obvious answer here is that none of them situations are ideal. I mean, we should be allowed our passions, but our passions need to be checked at a certain point, because our passions are what are driving us to do these evil things, like pile a bunch of people inside of the Red Keep to be used as cannon fodder and murder 1 million people on a dragon because I want an iron fucking chair. It really makes you put your life back into perspective if you think about it. And so I think really that's really what the point was, what George was trying to express through the books necessarily, and what the show has been trying to express. I just found it really odd that in episode 5, I'm looking at Cersei Lannister, and for the very first time in 8 seasons, I actually feel like bad for her situation, because she's crying and she's got a baby in her stomach, and you have this woman out there who you loved for 8 seasons is now murdering millions of people. It's really profound how they were able to turn that on the actual viewer, you know what I mean, or on the actual reader. I mean, there's just so many things about the episode and the series so far this season that I never expected and never thought I would get, and for those reasons alone, I have to respect.
Speaking of, we're going to do 2 more things here, 2 more comments. Andrea Triggs, who is in our Club B Tit. Yay! Love when she comes on and joins us live. Epic live show last night. Loved every bit of our show hosts going in hard. And yeah, they went in hard. I'll tell you right now. They went in hard, and I'm not going to finish that joke. The Julie rants were on point. I'm about to watch it again to get ready for tonight's show with the wonderful Andrea Richards, our Mistress of Whispers. Cannot wait to hear her take on everything again. So grateful to this show. You guys are fantastical. And just for using the word fantastical, which is one of my favorites, you get a gold star. Next we have Matthew. Daenerys being the villain started way back in season 1, when at the end of the season, she burns Mira Mazdor alive and vows painful vengeance on anyone who harms those who follow her, and led to so many other things. She always was destined for this. She did feel what she wanted to accomplish. She broke the wheel, but the bittersweet ending comes from the fact that she is unable to see it. She has forced the now 6 kingdoms to become something similar to the British Parliament, where the lords select their leaders. I think this is fantastic. It's a fantastic end to an amazing story. We are not the writers, but we are privileged to have been taken on the journey.
I agree 100%. I was actually looking for a quote really quick, just to back up what you were saying.
Mhm.
In season 1, Danny stood from the flames, and she made her very first speech. And I'm probably not going to be able to find it before I say this. So I'm just going to say it because I remember it by heart. I am the daughter of Aegon the Conqueror, the blood of old Valyria, and Maegor the Cruel.
Oh,
The
yeah.
blood of the dragon, and I will take what's mine by fire and blood. I swear those who would do us harm will die screaming. She was talking about, she said the same thing in Karth, but she also said it, when she was talking about getting revenge for them killing the handmaiden that she saved when Arrow, I think what her name was, she saved from Mirri Mazdar's village. They had murdered her and raped her while she was giving birth to Rhaego. So she says, "I am the daughter of Aegon the Conqueror, the blood of old Valyria, and Maegor the Cruel before him." I mean, yeah, and Maegor the Cruel. So there you have it. You have, I'm a conqueror and I'm also a tyrant. She admitted it right then and there, and it was really interesting. I never really caught on because it's not the same quite in the book as it is in the show. But she said, the daughter of Aegon the Conqueror and Maegor the Cruel. I mean, it's pretty fucking clear.
Yeah, and in the chat, Biggie says, Tyrion said, best in the last episode, she burned and killed evil men, and we cheer for her. But we didn't count the amongst the power that she was gaining, and the power, and that power corrupted her, basically. Yeah, totally true. Don't throw to 20 says, damn you, Andrea, you have me thinking what Rhaegar would have done if it was his sister burning the city and people. I'm conflicted.
Take notes, please, because these are all things that your Mistress of Whispers will happily cover on her own in another show. For real.
Yeah.
Just take notes and make sure you just think things you want Andrea to talk about.
Perfect segue. So if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now and you want to bring up a show topic or a specific thing you want talked about, all you have to do is either message it to us to our Facebook page, or you can email us behindtheironthrone@gmail.com. Super easy. And just put in there something you'd like us to do a show about, and we will do it. We will use your ideas. Please, we want to have your ideas. This is not just us coming up with shit. We want you guys to bring us shit to the table. So let's talk about Tyrion for a minute while it's on my mind. Oh, you want to go ahead, Andrea?
We have a lot of feedback in Facebook, and I haven't had a chance to respond to it. And even if I don't get a chance to actually reply, I want to just make sure that we get them read, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Eric says, Bran gave Jon what he wanted, to be the king of the free folk, and with Tormund and Ghost, my question is, can he get back to Winterfell? He can't see his sisters. I do want to address that really quick. There's nothing that says that he can't go back to Winterfell, considering the fact that he never swore an oath to the Night's Watch, 1, and 2. Sansa is the queen in the north, and it's separate from the Southern Six Kingdoms. So there's that. While technically the wall still exists, the wall is still a part of the northern kingdoms. If you think about it, Jon's technically conquering what's north of the wall. He's brand new, same people. They're going back through. He's Aegon the Conqueror again, but conquering a land that's never been really conquered all the way. With spring coming, who knows what happens. So I agree with that. Robert says, Tormund told Jon that he had the north in him. When Jon saw his own men committing atrocities in King's Landing, he knew there was no place for him in south of the wall. He ended in the best possible place. I agree. I also want to point out that there's a parallel to his mother in that, where Lyanna was considered, half a horse, centaur, and wanted to be a wildling. So with Jon actually finding his home north of the wall, it's kind of, there's symmetry in that. Let's see. Angela says, Jon is honorable to a fault. Stephen says, if Jon wanted to do what's right for the people, he would have taken his rightful place on the throne. In my opinion, Bran was the main villain of the entire series. If you think about it, he saw what was going to happen all throughout the 8th season. He manipulated everything and everyone to place himself on the throne. Andrea says, Ygritte was the love of his life, not Dany. She was his rival, a mirror image of Jon minus the nobility. I completely disagree. I don't think that Ygritte was the love of Jon's life. I think that she was a love of happenstance or opportunity, the same way that Drogo was for Dany. It was a situation he couldn't escape. It wasn't something that he chose on his own. Irina says, I don't think that he can see the future, at least not with clarity. But did Bran try to manipulate the president to a certain outcome? I don't think he did with a certain purposefulness. I think that he did whatever he could from a lawful, natural perspective in a subtle way. But he is not the mastermind of everything that has happened in the entire show. And for the record, Bran doesn't have any wants. This wasn't about wants. It was about what was the natural next step to come. It wasn't.
I don't think Bran is the villain.
I don't see Bran as the villain in the situation. He doesn't have desires, which is what's driving most people. And we saw that as perfect example when Edmure stood up. He desired to be and have more control. He had no fucking right to stand up. He had no credentials, no ability to, no proven right to lead men. Yet he stood up anyways. You know what I mean? Fucking idiot. So this is the exact, example of what we wanted to avoid is people who desire things that don't deserve them. And Bran doesn't have any of those desires. Bran just wants to do what's right for people, period. And we don't really know that because Bran doesn't actually have any desires. So that's just me thinking, best possible way to describe it, obviously. But no, I don't think that he intended on putting himself on the Iron Throne in any uncertain terms. I think that he would have been content if they would have allowed Jon to take it, but that wasn't an option. Andrea says that Dany had those wild, crazy eyes when she approached the throne. I completely agree. There was nothing but madness in her eyes at that point. She was just like, it's finally here. You did all of this destruction and damage. You just justified it, stood in front of all of your army and whoever else was surviving and declared that you basically planned this the whole entire time. You sacked cities, you killed men in their iron suits, you pulled down the bricks in their houses. You did all of the things that was promised. You took what was yours by fire and blood, and now you're looking at the chair. It was all for a fucking piece of metal chair with 1,000 fucking swords in it. Seriously? That was the ultimate goal, this chair. That makes you so happy, Dany? Then she turns around, she looks at Jon. Yeah, she's fucking nuts. Angela says, Ygritte didn't do anything but be born on the wrong side of the wall. Dany killed innocent people. That's true. Irina says, Jon did nothing wrong, but he feels like he did. Well, he did do something wrong. He let all that shit happen when he could have stopped it right then and there with Dany. He could have done it right then and there when he still had his dragon, too. Sorry, Dany, this isn't going to work. We can do this together or not at all. Emily says he did the right thing, but not necessarily in the right way. She needed to go, so I don't condemn him for it. Andrea says it's enough penance for Jon to live with the fact that he lost both loves of his life, essentially because of his decisions. That's the real life sentence. We know he'll forever beat himself up. Eric says a raven on the original season 1 poster sat on the Iron Throne next to Ned, foreshadowed by Bran being king. That's very, very true. I know the image.
A lot of people posted that, and Big E, I think, also in the YouTube brought that up, and a couple of different people did. And I saw that picture, and I'm like, I don't see any of that stuff. I'm so bad at this game.
It was there. I know exactly what you're saying. Let's see here. Emily says, but would he have killed her without the pep talk from Tyrion? I don't think so. I don't think he would have either. I think he would have just sat around and fucking done nothing and allowed, it would have been too late by the time he realized he had to act. Sansa would have been dead. Arya would have been dead. Everyone, he probably would have been dead. You know what I mean? So I think that he needed to do what he had to do, and that's the bottom line. And if the shoe was reversed, he wouldn't have survived much longer anyways, especially if he refused to be with her in the end. And so in that case, I think he did the right thing again. Let's see here. Eric,
Jim in the chat on Get Vocal. I think that's Goat. I think that's Goat. Is that you, Goat? Our General Goat from our Nerd Army?
Is it Goat?
I don't know. I thought it might have been.
Maybe. Let's see here. Eric says the show is always about the Iron Throne. Hell, it's in your intro. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. It's always been the Starks versus the Lannisters. Robert says the villain is the pursuit of power. In Game of Thrones, it is the Iron Throne, as the ring is in Lord of the Rings, which is very true. Andrea says, just like Tyrion said, no one's happy with these outcomes except Sansa. She won the Game of Thrones. Sansa did win the Game of Thrones. And then let's see here. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Eric agrees. Robert is promoting Bran's story, stating GOV is best run by artificial intelligence. Maybe. Basically saying, are we saying that artificial intelligence is the best way to roll people at this point?
Nice. Jim is saying, I'm Magoo on YouTube, or Magoo B2 on YouTube. Just a fan. Okay, well, you're not just a fan. You're a part of our community. There's a difference because you're here. You're a part of the community.
Dope.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about Tyrion. I feel a lot like Tyrion did in this episode. Like, just I love Dany. Dany and I had a very complicated relationship to the Game of Thrones, and I bought into the whole I'm going to save and I'm going to stop tyranny and I'm going to break the wheel, and I'm the person that should be in charge. And I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Did not even pay attention to any foreshadowing about her being, cray and going nuts and doing whatever she was going to do. I did not see it. And I agree, don't throw 220. Peter Dinklage did a phenomenal job acting. And one of my favorite scenes in this episode was when he ripped off the hand of the queen, threw it down, and you basically said, "I can't believe what you did. This is crazy." And when he was upset about Jamie and Cersei when he unburied him, that was touching. Although had they stepped like 20 feet over, they might have survived.
I said the same thing on Sunday.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to pull out. I don't want to, beat this thing to death because last night we really attacked the show pretty hardcore. But I did notice that was kind of silly. But I don't know. Tyrion, that was heart wrenching. And then Tyrion talking to Jon Snow, and I think that
his monologue.
Tyrion, he should be getting more praise. He's the one that convinced Jon that you got to do the right thing, and you already know what the right thing is. You just have to make the decision. Because that's how I look at it.
His monologue was some of the best writing for the entire season. It was what he said. We all thought that she was, going to break the wheel, and she was going to do the right thing, and when she burnt the maesters and the cows in Vaes Dothrak and, the slavers in Astapor and Meereen, and she liberated people of Slavers Bay, we cheered her for it. We told her that her actions were justified. And somewhere along the line, she started believing that her actions were justifiable. Yeah. And she became right. And we told her that she was right. Dany wasn't a monster because she went mad. She was a monster because nobody checked her worst impulses, which is what Varys had been warning people about. You need to check her worst impulses. And he wasn't able to check her worst impulses. And I actually said this last season when during the off season, when I was discussing whether or not Tyrion would, commit treason or whatever. He said, our queen chose a hand that would check her worst impulses. And the thing is that he couldn't, and he had stopped having that ability to check her worst impulses the minute she met Jon Snow. Or even before then, if, we go back all the way to Astapor and Meereen and whatnot, and, the cows in Vaes Dothrak, it was just, listening to what he was saying to Jon, it was like, wow, the same. And not only, are we thinking, yeah, Tyrion, you really fucked up there, didn't you? Right? You have to look inward too, because as a viewer, you've been looking at Dany's actions for 8 seasons, and you're like, yeah, Dany, kill those fucking maesters, burn Mary Mesder, fuck that bitch, kill anyone who would cross you, anyone who would take your dragons, anyone who would harm innocent people, anyone who would we're cheering her on. And now we're looking at her doing the same things that she's been doing for 8 seasons, and we're like, you're a monster for it. How can she not feel justified when we've cheered her on for 8 seasons? I mean,
and the villain doesn't ever say, I'm the villain, I'm doing bad. I mean, they feel like they're justified, and they feel like she felt like she was the prophesized one, and she's the chosen one, and it's her duty to break the wheel, and she was convinced that it was her duty,
her divine right.
Yeah, I mean, look at we, like you said, we cheered her for crucifying those slavers. She's freed the slaves and killed a whole bunch of people. I mean, we cheered her, and I was one of those people that was like, yeah, do the right thing. But I'm watching that scene right now where Dany's like standing in front of everybody and she's doing her speech, and I just can't help to think of, like, you're a tyrant. Look at you, like, terrible.
And the thing is, and then you're looking at her and you're seeing all of this and you're realizing she's never lied about who she was. Never once. She's giving this speech in front of her Dothraki and her Unsullied, and it's the same Dany who's been telling us these same things since we met her in season 1. And now all of a sudden it's too much for us. We didn't have the stomach for it. And I brought this up last episode too, was Tyrion was talking to Varys, and Varys was like, you'll get your revenge if you have the stomach for it. And Tyrion eventually did get his revenge, but he didn't actually have the stomach for it. Well, neither did we. We didn't have the stomach for it either. We watched her get her revenge, and in the end, it was not satisfying for us. And I think that was the lesson too, with Arya being sent away from seeking revenge, was revenge isn't satisfying or gratifying. It's just revenge.
Jim says Tyrion was fulfilling Varys' purpose. He also says, yeah, do all that evil shit in Essos, but don't bring it over here. Stefan says, I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about the fact that Tyrion had his hand in everything, in every episode, and was left out of the songbook. We'll probably bring that up in just a second. And in the YouTube, we have we have a lot of comments here. Peter Dinklage acted wonderfully by Don't Throw to 20. Let's see. Big Tyrion will be Dany's downfall in the books. He will be her
Lion
devil.
and Griffin.
Yep, in her shoulder, and whisper to her that Fagon took what is hers by right, and she will burn King's Landing.
Right. It's not going to be about Jon.
Don't Throw to 20. Tyrion negotiated his way out of his own trial. He is the smartest man at Westeros. Mag H says, how did Grey Worm and company stay holding Tyrion and Jon after Dany was dead and out of power?
It's a good question. Plot armor. I guess we'll have to see.
Let's see here. The thing that always got him in trouble was ultimately the thing that saved him in this trial, and that was his mouth. He never knew when to shut up. And I'm glad they never cut out his tongue, because there was a lot of rumors and theories that he was going to get his tongue cut out, and I'm glad he didn't. I'm watching the scene now where, Dany's standing there and she looks like Hitler, talking about how we did this and we did that, and the Unsullied, and you're my new head of the army there, Grey Worm. You're the ultimate creeper of killing people. And as Tyrion is walking up behind her, if looks could kill, Dany would have been a corpse, the way he's looking at her, walking up behind her. And I just felt like, man, that's kind of how I felt. I can really relate to Tyrion here. And I just absolutely loved Tyrion's response to her behavior and to the shit that she did. And when she turns to look at Tyrion after he's like, I can't believe what you did. She looks at him like Tyrion's got 10 heads, like he is a complete idiot. Wow. And that's when I realized that she's done. She's exactly what they wrote her as. And I wasn't ready for that, even though everyone said all the foreshadowing. I get it. But like I said, I'm a moron and I didn't see it.
So it actually really occurred to me today while I was prepping for the show that Dany, her parallel this whole entire time has been Rhaenyra Targaryen through the Dance of Dragons. She's the queen who felt like it was her right to sit the Iron Throne, but wasn't actually deserving of the Iron Throne, right? And through this, she brings about almost the destruction of her entire house. And I was looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, well, how does this actually come full circle? Well, George R. R. Martin, he completely affirms that Daenerys, the character that he wrote, isn't crazy. She's not mad. That when the gods flipped the coin, Daenerys' side fell on greatness, not on madness. So I think the show had to figure out a way to appeal to the show watchers and come about, bringing about her end. And it just happens to read as, or, display as her being mad. But again, everyone considers Rhaenyra Targaryen not actually worthy of the Iron Throne either. So you have a woman who has 100% power and she has dragons and she's, crazy and she's killing people, etc., all for her birthright, which is what Rhaenyra Targaryen essentially did, right? And then you have the other side who's judging her actions, similar to like what Ned Stark did with Jaime Lannister when he killed the Mad King. It is about perception in the end. It's not necessarily about if she's actually crazy or if she's not. So with that in mind, I think that we're looking at the idea of one person who feels like they justifiably have to end the other. And it's not about madness or any of those things. I don't think that Dany went mad. I think that she's a queen who feels like she's being denied what's hers by right.
Another part that I forgot about that I really liked is when Jon Snow's watching Dany go into her dragon hiding throne area before she's going to look at the Iron Throne. You like see Jon from, I guess, the side, and then there's Arya. Like she just poof shows up, and I'm thinking, please don't let it be Arya that kills Dany. She's already saved humanity. Let's not have her kill everybody. But it's funny, like she's just poof there. She is literally, and I've said this a million times, and I'll keep saying it, so I don't care. Keep your hate mail. Dany is a spider monkey ninja warrior.
Arya.
Oh, who'd I say?
Dany.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. I just ruined my own joke. Arya is a spider monkey ninja warrior. Awesome. Ninja Gaiden. Absolutely biggie. I love it. I love Arya. I wasn't liking Arya's story back when she was training as a faceless man. I like the book version way better than I like the way the show did it. However, when we get her over back in Westeros, I started to like her again. And I wonder if anyone else felt the same way about that.
Yeah, I hated her Bravos time, but for that record, I hated Dany's time in Essos. I want people to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there, no matter what. And I've always wanted Arya to be next to Jon. I didn't understand why she didn't just go to the wall, but essentially speaking, especially if I go the route of the Prince That Was Promised or Arya Bringer, she had to be where she was to learn who to be, how to be, who she is at the time. But I am 100% in agreement with the idea that Arya should not have been the one to kill Dany. I wanted her to be the one to kill Dany only because I didn't want Jon to have to be the one to actually kill his own family, especially being that there are only 2 of them left. But I didn't want her to do it for the simple fact that she's already done so much, and Jon need to fucking pull his weight.
Now, here's something that I almost forgot to ask you, and I'm glad that Don't Throw to 20 brought this up. He says, I think it's he or she, this person said, I would like to think the faceless god was proud of Arya. Now, here's something I can't seem to get my head around, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I'm having a hard time with the closure in this episode. So, we have R'hllor, Lord of Light. Yay, Lord of Light. Beric Dondarrion brought back to life. His job was to keep Arya alive to go do what she's got to do. That was his closure. That was his job. Boom. End of story. Jon Snow gets brought back to life. And was it just to kill Dany? Like, I feel like it wasn't him that brought the North together I feel like it was Davos, really, with Jon, as the cardboard cutout that everyone saw. But Davos, I feel like, did all the negotiating to get all the lords together. He did get Dany. He got her support, but what was the big reason for Jon Snow to be brought back from the dead? And I think Andrea might have a somewhat of an answer for this. And is R'hllor, does he, what the hell? What's the deal with R'hllor? Is the Night King dead? And R'hllor's like, okay, job's done. Fuck it. I'm taking a vacation. See you next time there's some trouble. Or was there more to that?
I think that Jon's whole entire purpose has always been to unite people. Whether you think that Davos did it or not in the North, and I don't want to take away or minimize Davos's role in uniting the North under the Stark banner again. But Davos didn't unite 3 dragons or 2 dragons, an army and unsullied, Dothraki, Northmen, Free Folk, Valemen, under one banner. He didn't do that. Jon Snow did that. Daenerys did that. They were both meant to unite people. But in the end, neither of them had a purpose further than that. Dany wanted to rule too much. Jon didn't want to rule at all, but they were meant to bring people together. And that's what they did ultimately. They brought people together for the one thing that mattered the most, which was destroying the Night King. In the end, ultimate power, it corrupts people. And that Dany was a perfect example of corrupted power. And her desires, basically, they burn too hot. What was interesting for me as far as the many-faced god goes is that, or not even the many-faced god, but R'hllor, is that Dany was basically sacrificing 1 million people to the flames. You would think he'd be really happy with her for that.
Right.
But the many-faced god doesn't believe in sacrificing people's lives who weren't given to him, if that makes any sense.
So, yeah, no, that definitely does. So do you think that, and I know we're getting a little bit off this episode, but I had to ask this question. You're the person to do the answering. So do you believe that there is the old gods? Do you believe that there's the many-faced god? Do you believe that R'hllor is real? Are they all the same god, or do you think they are separate? Are we ever going to get an answer, do you think? Or does it even matter anymore?
So I don't necessarily know if it matters. What I say is we can't deny that there is magic in people in the show. We can't deny that each individual possesses their own brand of magic. Whether the old gods are real or not, we can't deny that there is magic in the weirwood trees. But that is all connected to the magic that's inside mankind. For that matter, I can't say that R'hllor is real or he's false, or the nameless ones are real or they're false, or the many-faced god is real or is false. But what I can say is that there is life, which is absolute, and there is death, which is absolute, and you cannot have one without the other. And in that aspect, life and death are both gods, or they're both deities. If R'hllor claims to be life and light, while death is darkness and it's emptiness, basically. You see what I'm saying? So you have light and darkness that are both, opposing each other, which goes back to the books, which say that the maiden maid of light is actually the wife of the lion of night. So you have the moon and the sun that are polar opposites that are they're always meant to work together, but never be side by side, if that makes sense. So you'll live your whole entire life between one or the other, but eventually you'll start in one place and you'll end in the other. All roads lead to sometimes different roads lead to the same castle. So I think that's really what we're working at here, is life and death. And so in that aspect, that's what the Night King, that's what he corrupted, was the fact that death didn't have a finality with the Night King. He was the enemy of death. And at the same time, he was the enemy of life, because you're not allowing the balance or the cipher to keep spinning, if that makes sense. You're breaking one wheel, but you need to ensure another.
Yeah. Now, that's a great answer, by the way.
Thank you.
And I want to say that the only god that I adhere to, and get your drinks ready, is the god of tits and wine. It's been my god since we started since Tyrion said it in season 2 was it 2? What he said 3? I forget. The god of tits and wine.
Who would the god of tits and wine be in Greek or Roman mythology?
Oh, that would be me, Chris Gray. There was no.
It'd be a woods nymph running around with berries on him.
Here, this guy, the god of tits and wine. Send your hate mail to someone else, because I'm not reading it. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about Drogon. So Drogon is guarding the entryway to the throne room, right? Now it is snowing, right? It's not ash.
It's ash.
Okay, it's ash. It's not snow.
It's ash. It's all about the message. She's the god. She's the queen of the ashes. It's all in the it's all in the ass. It's all in the aesthetics. Is she burnt down King's Landings? Dragons thrive in fire. Queen of the Ash. You have a dragon that's completely covered in ash. You know what I mean? That you can't even see. It's all symbolic. It's just Queen of the Ashes.
That's what I thought, because a lot of people thought it was snow, and I thought it was ash, and I thought it was a symbolism. And of course, she just burned the shit out of King's Landing. I mean, it's like 9/11. It's ash. It's just terrible.
It's like a volcano erupted.
Don't throw to 20, or don't throw to 20. It says, are we supposed to assume Ellaria Sand was dead before King's Landing being burned down, or did Dany forget and Ellaria died in the rubble? I'm thinking she died in the rubble.
I think that's something that one of those things we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know, but I think she's dead. So
did Oberyn have a bastard son is the question. That's the biggest question I'm interested in. Oh. Did he hide his bastard son so they wouldn't usurp his daughters? Or so they wouldn't usurp Arianne Martell? Or who the fuck is that guy? I'm confused.
Yeah, who is that guy? That's a very good question.
Who the fuck is he? He was dressed in fucking Oberyn in the colors of House Martell.
Yeah, he was dressed to impress.
He was not in violet like House Dane, so he was not a Dane of Starfall. He was fucking Martell. Who the fuck is he?
Yeah, who is he? And where did you come from?
Bacchus! Yes, thank you, Irina.
Nice.
The horned god of wine. And he had plenty of tits, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. You're talking my language
tits
right
and wine,
there.
I'm gonna, you guys, just for argument's sake, it's really important. Let's get the joke out of the way. I once went into a brothel with a honeycomb and a jackass. Chris, do you know the rest of it?
I don't.
What does the honeycomb consist of?
Honey.
What is a jackass also called?
An ass.
So, who wants to lick honey off my ass?
That's an awesome joke. And if anyone wants to, you can just call me.
That's the joke. I walked into a brothel with a honeycomb and a jackass, and I asked all the people present, who wants to lick honey off my ass?
You know what's funny? I tell that joke to people at work, and they all look at me like I'm crazy.
It's the funniest shit, and they should have finished it.
I'm waiting for them to email me with hate mail next. Let's see. Who were the half of the guys in the dragon pit? We'll talk about that in a minute, Jim. But first, I want to go back to Drogon. So Drogon comes out of the ash, looking at Jon. He's like, okay, you're okay to go. Jon goes in, stab, I love you, kisses her, kiss, I love, stabs, dead. Drogon comes flying up. Now, this is why I had a theory, and I never really shared this on the podcast.
That he was going to ride Drogon?
Well, that was part of it, but the other part was that Drogon and Dany were connected on a psychic type level, not like Bran, who can, like, ooh, I'm a bird. Look at me, I'm a flock of freaking birds. No, I mean like there's
metaphysical.
Kind of psychic, exactly. Here comes Drogon. He looks at Jon, and I think, like everyone else at that moment, thought Jon was going to die right then and there, which I would have been okay with. That would have been an awesome way to go out. However, Drogon turns to the Iron Throne, knowing that the dragon is intelligent, knowing that the throne drove her to this point. Well, because that's what her goal was, to get to the Iron Throne, right? Melts it down, and then takes her body, and off he goes. I was okay with that. I thought that was pretty freaking awesome, and not just because of the CGI they did, but there was a lot of symbolism there. There was a lot of connection there. And, Jon standing there like, oh, shit, I dodged a bullet. And
I think he was just as shocked as we were, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That was really profound for me too, Chris. I'm glad that you thought that it was really interesting how it all worked out. The first thing that I actually noticed was that his first instinct wasn't to attack the person who killed his mother. His first instinct was to dismantle the Iron Throne. And you could see that he was clearly mourning, but we also are told so many times that dragons are intelligent and they know who's the friend and who's not their friend. And Tyrion was convinced that if he was friends with Daenerys, that was enough, right? But I think that what happened is that Drogon understood that something about his mother had changed and snapped. And he understood that all started with that throne. Because that was his first intent, was to dismantle the Iron Throne. And then he took his mom and he left. He didn't bother attacking Jon. He understood what Jon did, but he ended the thing that corrupted everyone, which was that goddamn chair.
Is it okay that I cried at that moment is it okay that I cried twice here when Jon Snow stabbed Dany and when Drogon destroyed the throne? Is that bad that I did that? Like, should I be ashamed?
No, I cried for most of the episode. I'm laughing, however, because Eric says we have some of the best fans in the world.
Yeah, we do. He
said, since Bran didn't need a chair, Drogon melted the chair to make a ramp to make the throne wheelchair accessible.
That's terrible. I like it. Now,
so thoughtful. No wonder why he wanted the dragon back.
I should probably put this out there before I get more fucking hate mail. We have no problem with people in wheelchairs. I have a friend that's in a wheelchair. He does amazing at basketball. We're just having a joke. And so please don't send me hate mail. I really don't want to deal with any more of it. Well, you guys killed me last night with it. Don't want any more. We're just trying to have some fun. I think that most people that are in wheelchairs can have a good laugh also. They know that we're not picking on them. We're talking about Bran. He's a fucking wheel creeper, for God's sakes.
He's Bran. I think that makes actually a really good point, was that it could possibly be that he was acting on Bran's instinct. Who knows? But made me just actually think that Bran was promised that he will never walk again, but he will fly. So he's looking for Drogon in the end. What reason could a non-Targaryen have for wanting to know where a dragon is, other than to have an idea of his location, or possibly warging him in the end, and that's how he'll end his life, possibly bringing Jon Snow home. Who knows? We don't know how it works out. We don't know how it ends. It's open to interpretation at this point, but the only person who has the ability to ride him at this point that we know of is Jon Snow. And I think the idea of putting Jon Snow on Drogon's back right after he murdered Daenerys would be a little too much for people to swallow. So it's open to interpretation.
Don't throw to 20 says Drogon nudging Dany, nudging her, reminding me of Simba trying to wake up Mufasa.
The Andrea says she cried throughout the episode. Eric says the Iron Throne is what killed her, similar to the ring having the power to Frodo. Diana says, I saw most of the episode. Andrea also says, did he take her to Valyria? Robert says, I think Drogon took Dany and left the realm of men forever, signifying the end of most of magic. It's possible. I want to say that. I want to propose a different outcome, which is in order to touch the light, you must pass beneath the shadow. And that's one of Dany's prophecies. Now, George R. R. Martin says that we'll never see Ashay in the books. Not even Dany will never go to Ashay. So I think the idea of touching the light to pass beneath the shadow might be something that happens to Dany following her death. The passing beneath the shadow is the the veil of death, and touching the light is coming back. It's quite possible that this could be, how it ends for her. I don't know where Drogon took her. If they said he flew east, east is towards Ashay. It's quite possible that he took her there, and we don't know what happens in Ashay after the fact. There's so many interpretations, but we do know based on Fire and Blood, Volume 1, that What's-Her-Face sailed east and then ended up in Ashay, or crossing through the Jade Sea, etc. I have to go back and read the exact passage, but it's quite possible that this is going to play out again and just repeat, because so far, whether you break the wheel of how people, rule the 7 or the 6 kingdoms, time is a infinite loop. The wheel continues no matter what.
I can't. I'm watching that scene as you're talking with Drogon melting the throne and looking at Jon Snow, and there was so much emotion in that dragon face. Like, it's incredible. Now that I'm watching it again, I it's incredible. Like, I definitely missed a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, there's so much. That's my point. Is they're not just dragons; they're intelligent beings. They understand. Yeah. They're not just mindless creatures. They're just out burning people. The idea that Drogon was actually the one who killed Hesea in Meereen is almost absolutely impossible at this point. He was the only one of her dragons, her 3 dragons, that remained wild while her other 2 were locked up. Yet she never got more children being delivered to her. But yet he's the one we're expected to believe actually did it in the first place. Dragons are not idiots. He's not dumb. He is more than just a mindless beast. And so I think that shows us that there's intelligence in him specifically. And even when he meets Jon for the first time, there's that recognition of Jon, to Drogon before anybody else. They did a really good job, with the cinematics when it came to this episode involving the dragon. For example, Dany's landing and that first image of her walking and the dragon's wings coming up behind her, and basically waking the dragon. Dany had wings. It was really profound. I mean, and then coming out of the ashes, and then that moment in the throne room. It was just, you see a wide variety of emotions. You learn so much about the dragons that you didn't know before in just that 3 minutes or less.
Yeah, Drogon was so gentle to lift her up with his claw. Like, that was amazing.
Eric says that he took her west of Westeros for Arya's spinoff show, and I want to say that actually was just completely debunked by HBO. There will not be a West of Westeros spinoff.
That sucks. The West World of Westeros. We might have to do a podcast of the prequels if that's what they're doing. Is that what they're doing? The prequels for Game of Thrones, A Long Night or something?
Well, George R. R. Martin said that right now he's working with HBO specifically on 5 different projects. Not all of them being Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire or Westeros related, not in that same fandom. But that doesn't mean that there aren't quite a few of them, and that's just with HBO alone. Yes, right now the pilot that they're preparing for is The Long Night. So that's our full explanation of what happens with the Night King, I suppose, which is why they fucked us in this season, more than likely.
I agree. And some people are pissed off because of that whole fade to black, and then Tyrion shows up, and then it's fast forwarded that time jump that they did. I was okay with it. I know we're running out of they're running out of time. Is at the end. So time jump, and we're going into the Dragon Pit. And I know a lot of people, including myself, were looking forward to a trial by combat, which I had a feeling wasn't going to happen because I wanted it so badly. And that's when Tyrion names Bran. Oh, God, I can't believe this. As the king. And this is a very interesting conversation. Now, do you know all the people that were at this meeting, Andrea? Because there's a lot of people asking, who were the people?
Okay.
That were this king's moot, if you will, this council meeting?
It's a really good question. And the best that I can do is starting from the right side or the left side of the podium. You have, hold on, let me see if I can get it correct. I'm right here.
Well, while you're looking at that, I'm going to say that I love when Yara was talking shit,
Mm-hmm.
and Arya's like, "Yeah, keep talking about my brother, and I will cut you."
Right.
I thought that was awesome. I wanted to see
I
Arya
wanted
get
to see
up
her
and
murder everyone and just let John walk away.
That's funny.
That was my personal opinion. I was like, Arya, just stand up and just start slicing throats. I mean, Grey Worm's not even going to be able to move before you start slicing his throat. And Yara, Bran can just warg her and shut her the fuck up. Like, we can do this. I in my head, I was plotting every possible move that they could make. I mean, if Bran really wanted to be a dick, all he had to do is just warg into everybody at the same time, because he can do that because he's a badass fucking will creeper. But
we got a good name. Ashley just jumped in the chat. Yay, Ashley. And good name for the podcast, Before the Iron Throne. I like that. I'm writing that down.
Ooh, a new one. That's exciting.
Yeah, I like that. It would be easy marketing. I can still keep it.
I didn't get it again. Okay, so I know for a fact that we have each pavilion is basically a region of Westeros. So you have your House Representatives, starting with Samwell Tarly. I assume that's the Reach Lords. So you have Samwell Tarly, and then you have in the middle, you have somebody who's probably a Riverlands Lord, and then you have Edmure Tully, who's also the Lord Paramount, or should be the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. Then beside them, we have an unknown character. That person, I do believe, is either a Bracken or a Blackwood. In the credits, it says Riverlands Lord. It doesn't say who. I'm trying to figure out who the next possible solution would be. We obviously know it's nobody who's at Harrenhal, and it's nobody who's at the Twins. So the next two houses that are the best known would be Blackwood or Bracken. And I don't have any knowledge of which one that one is. So then you have, for the Stormlands, you have Davos Seaworth, who is the Lord of the Rainwood. You have Gendry Baratheon, who is the Lord of Storm's End. And you have Brienne of Tarth, who is the Lady of Tarth, right? And then in the north, you have, obviously, Arya, Sansa, Arya, Sansa, and Bran. And then you have, on the eastern side, or the right side of the podium, you have the Vale Lords, which I would assume are Lord Jon Royce, Robin Arryn, and possibly a Corbray or somebody like that, or a Grafton.
Oh yeah,
from Gulltown. It's quite possible. I don't really know. Like, maybe they would want to represent all three regions of the Vale area, but I'm not quite positive. Then you have Doran, you have Dorne, the representative for Dorne. You have Yar for the Iron Islands, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss one more. Also, I just want to say props to whoever did Sansa's hair in this episode. It looks fire. Best episode. Best hairdos on Sansa I have seen in the entirety of the series are right here in this episode.
Doesn't Royce and Robin Arryn represent the same? And by the way, Robin really grew up.
Royce represents the Gate, where Robin Arryn represents the entirety of the Vale of Arryn. But he's the Lord Paramount, but I think he's still in Regency as well. Hold on, I need to pause that. I think he's in Regency as well. I'm not quite positive because we don't actually have an idea of the time frame that. Okay. I just need to get a look at
Arya looks awesome. I love her outfit, and I love the outfit she wears later on when they name her Queen of the North.
Oh God, yes.
And the tiara. I know a lot of people, including our very own Trin, wants that. So if anyone knows if they make that for cosplay and they're selling it, please let us know. Please let us know where they're going to be selling it, because that thing looks absolutely awesome. God, I love Sansa has been an amazing character to me this season. I'm really, really taken with her. All right, I have you muted because there's a lot of noise. Go ahead.
Oh, it's fine. I'm trying to look at the podium here, but not actually quite seeing everything.
Let us know, Danielle, if you're going to make one, because I know Trin really wants it.
Danielle, that would be dope.
I still can't believe Tyrion talked his way out of this.
Of course he did.
Amazing. And Grey Worm. I've been very disappointed with Grey Worm this last season. I know he was in love with Missandei, but he's supposed to be an Unsullied. How do you untrain his entire life of being the perfect weapon to how do you untrain that to him being in love where all of his emotions are now right like on his sleeve like an exposed nerve, and he looks at Tyrion like I hate you. Looks at he's killing the Lannisters. When they're on their knees surrendered, Jon Snow's trying to stop him. It's not the Grey Worm. I was.
No, he lost himself.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he lost himself with Missandei. I mean, it was. I think that the natural devolvement or dissolvement of his character after Missandei's death was everything. The separation of those two characters from the rest of the rest of everyone in the entire series, once they entered the lands of Westeros, especially the North, started to show us that they were pulling away from, actually caring anything about the people in Westeros because they were just outsiders to them. Why should they care? You know what I mean? They already had planned on leaving Dany after she took her throne. They didn't want to be there anymore. So I think the idea of them seeing citizens and, children and women and men as anything other than the enemy who would do the same to them regardless, especially after watching them murder Missandei, was the next natural step for Grey Worm to take. And then inside Dany's, the chamber of the painted table, when she hands him Missandei's collar, and she's like, she's kept this whole entire time. It reminds her where she came from, and she gave it to Grey Worm, I think as a way of trying to console him, but also I think that she was trying to figure out how he felt about it still. And he threw it in the fire. It was basically like, it doesn't matter anymore. Everything is going up in flames regardless. It was very symbolic. And so seeing him behave this way, very cold about it and, not deciding on a new leader once, Dany was gone, it was almost like he doesn't care if he lives or he dies anyways.
I just cannot stand the way Bran looks at everybody. It drives me nuts. I want to get a Bran Wheel Creeper cloak, and I want to put it on, and I'm going to randomly sit at different places, like at the mall, at a hairdressing shop, in the middle of a parking lot. I'm just going to find a place to sit, and I'm just going to stare and have someone take a picture. And I'm going to put on their Creeper Strikes Again and post it all over social media. Someone else is doing that, and I want to try it and see if I can get away with it. I think it's hilarious.
You're funny.
Let's see. Don't Throw to 20 says, at Chris and at Andrea, based off the ending, out of all the dead characters, who is rolling in their graves the hardest? I say it has to be Tywin. Wow. Yeah. I think that's a good one. Who's rolling in their graves the hardest? I'm saying either. Well, the Night King doesn't have a grave because he's shattered into pieces. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Tywin. Oh, Danielle says Lady Olenna. That's a good one too.
Yeah, consider and look at all the destruction she just brought with her one little bit of advice. Be a dragon.
And Bronn as the head of Highgarden, and he's the master of coin. Like, who came up with that? I mean, Tyrion.
A sellsword? Yeah.
Kidding me. And Bran approved it, so he can't be that smart. Real quick, Gendry looks great. He's looks like he's being a good lord. He's got his outfit on. He's looking pretty top notch.
Yeah, took the lordship really easy, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Like
really natural.
Like
and that's why he's nothing compared to Jon Snow, in my opinion.
I mean, he took to that like flies on shit. Danielle says she is trying to get the Lord of Light to bring her back. But I can't get over Sansa, how she's grown as a character. And I love the way her hair's red. And her outfit when she's getting crowned as Queen of the North, the embroidery was just absolutely gorgeous. They do a phenomenal job with makeup and costumes in this show. Absolutely.
Irina says, did they seriously make a sellsword the Lord Paramount of the Reach and give him the realm's financial responsibility, or is this a fucking joke? Actually, when you think about it, who better to manage the realm's finances than a sellsword who basically lives his life, counting every single penny he has. So he's financially, savvy at this point, you have to expect. And he's not going to bulk on making deals and cutting corners and trying to save costs and things like that. And he is ruthless, and bankers need to be ruthless. So he's kind of like the ideal candidate for this. But the problem with that is can you guarantee that he's going to remain loyal and make sure people are fed at a decent price? You know what I mean? So it is a little bit funny for me. It's a little odd. Who knows if Bronn makes it through this all? I mean, it could just be the show killing people off that should be alive, and, you know, keeping people alive that should be dead. Fucking knows. Let's see here. Maybe like the Kings of Winter crown. I actually really liked Sansa's crown, for the record. Tom, he says he would have liked Sansa's crown to remain to be more like the Kings of Winter, which was the iron and bronze crown with the swords, the long swords. But I actually really liked the fact that it was a snarling direwolf that, you know, came down the way it did. It was beautiful. I thought the work was absolutely stunning. Andrea says, I bawled my face off when Sansa was being crowned, but shit, she wasted no fucking time getting a crown on her head. But did you see Winterfell, though? It was beautiful. I mean, I think that quite a bit of time had passed before she actually was coronated. But she looked every bit a queen, and damn it, she did say she was going to make the people love her when she was queen, when she said that right there in the Maiden Vault. Tom says that Grey Worm really disgusted him. He needed to be executed. His last words should have been to order the Unsullied to protect Nath. Exactly. He should have just dropped his swords and he should have sailed off. Dany's gone. Our purpose is gone with her. Instead, he wanted to stick around and see that Jon was punished to send him to a wall that he wasn't going to stay at, which was a hollow sentence. I mean, it was literally pointless.
A wall.
He didn't. It wasn't a sentence. It wasn't a sentence to die. And then also there's a wordplay involved there too. A life sentence should suffice. Well, Jon already gave his life to the Watch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, there was wordplay involved there too. Andrew says, what do you think about Grey Worm's orders from Dany to kill all of those who follow Cersei without Jon's knowledge? That was one of the things that I had a really hard time swallowing. I mean, I didn't have a hard time swallowing the fact that she said it. I had a hard time, you know, swallowing the fact that it was actually happening. It was really sad. And I can't get over, you know, all the senseless crimes that happened there. And they were war crimes no matter what. And it's one thing to execute a man in battle. It's another thing to execute a man once he's bent the knee and put his sword down. And those are war crimes. Just like Gregor Clegane was guilty of war crimes when he killed Elia and Aegon and Rhaenys. Or Tywin Lannister as well, because he gave the order. It was really hard for me to swallow. As far as who I think would be rolling over in their grave right now, I think that it would be Ned, because had Ned been honest with him and done the right thing from the beginning and raised Jon, you know, understanding what was so important, a lot of this could have been avoided. Dany could have been raised in a place that was safe for her, where she could be well adjusted, that she could have, you know, gotten rid of those passions. I mean, a lot of things would have been different, sure, who knows? But in the end, I think that had the right thing been done from the beginning, a lot of this shit wouldn't have happened in the first place.
Excellent points. I still feel let down that he's a Targaryen and they didn't take it to another level. And I think I still can't believe that. So I'm now that we talk about it and I've watched the episode again, I'm okay with Jon riding off into the sunset, or in this case, up into winter. I'm okay with that. It's where he belongs. Despite the fact that he's a Targaryen, he was raised a Stark. So I'm okay with that. Bran did do him a favor, although last night I thought that he got the short end of the stick because he's going to freeze his balls off. But that's really where Jon wants to be. And Jon got reunited with Ghost, and he got to pat him on the head. It's the pat that we all wanted. After all the hate that D&D got for Jon, just not even really, you know, like a little nod at Ghost, he finally got a head pat. So that was good.
When they said goodbye to each other in Winterfell, it was almost like a not goodbye. You see what I'm saying? It was like a I'll see you again. Why say goodbye when goodbyes are so final? When hello is so much easier. So I like I said it before and I'll say it again, no words were necessary between Jon and Ghost ever. They have a bond that words are transcended. It's transcended by words. And I didn't see a reason for him to have to go up to his wolf, and, you know, make this long emotional goodbye. It was very much foreshadowed that Jon and Ghost weren't saying goodbye to each other. So in my opinion, I I was satisfied with it, and I wasn't mad about it in the fourth episode when they all moved, or was it the fourth episode when they all left? Eric says, not Eric. Irina says, do you think John will not have children of his own ever? I actually don't think that that's written in stone anywhere. He's a free man. He can do whatever he wants now. He's not a bastard.
Him and Tormund are going to have some fun.
They're gonna fuck some bears.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I guess I'm okay with everything else. Brienne of Tarth adding to the Kingsguard book, right? That was cool. A lot of people hated it. There was a lot of people in Facebook that said, no, that sucks. That's terrible. I thought it was nice.
It was bittersweet. He left her.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they promised us was bittersweet, right? We can't just expect bittersweet to end with just Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen. Bittersweet includes all of our characters that have POV chapters. And Brienne is one of those characters. And the idea that she would be Lord Commander of the Kingsguard moving forward, it is her duty to fill out his section of the White Book, whether he served the same king or not. And that was one of the things that really, really, really affected Jaime in the end. Her having to sit there and write his story. Her who knows him better than anyone, actually, at this point, other than maybe Bran, because Bran can see everything that he's ever done at every moment of every time. But somebody who actually cares and has feelings for a man like Jaime Lannister. It was poetic and it was bittersweet, but it was perfect. And who better to fill out the pages of the White Book than her? Jaime shouldn't have to write his own story.
So, Arya, you're okay with her end scene? And also, while you're going to respond to that, anybody in the chat watching live, if you want to give us your sword rating, remember we rate the show at 1 to 10. 10 swords being the best, 1 being the worst. If you want to drop in your sword rating in the chats, we'll read it right now on the show while after Andrea is finished talking about Arya, and if you're happy with the end of her story.
Was I answering a question?
Yes. Are you happy with Arya's the way that her story ended?
No, I'm not. I'm not happy with Arya's story. Gosh, no. She should have been with Jon. So she can go west of Westeros, and she needs to take herself north of the north so she can go find her brother. That's all I care about. God, no. The idea of her leaving Jon after she had fought so long to be back by his side, him being everything to her, her carrying Needle with her. No, not happy with that at all. If anybody should have went north with Jon, it should have been Arya, because she was half a wildling too. My opinion.
Don't throw to 20 says that Andrea, what's the primary custom for empty castles? Who gets Casterly Rock, Last Hearth, Deepwood Motte, formerly ruled by Glovers?
So it would depend on, I think, lineage. Depending on if they're going that route or not. Technically, if there's no sons or daughters left, it would go to the next cousin in line as like a distant cousin, male or female. I think it would just depend on who actually wants to lay claim to it. Otherwise, if there is no living descendants who has any blood relation to the actual keep, it would be up to the liege lord or the king at this point to name the next person as who's going to be the acting lord or lady of that keep. With Tyrion being alive and being hand to the king, I think it stands to reason that House Lannister isn't considered enemies at this point anymore. So if there's like a cousin that survived that didn't fight in the war, or Jenna, like for example, managed to live, she could be the Castellan at Casterly Rock. Otherwise, Tyrion could give it up completely, and he could Bran could reassign it. But I think it would just go down to primogeniture.
Okay. Let's see. Danielle saying, is Tyrion, would he get Casterly Rock? I don't think so, because he's hand to the king now, right?
Well, I mean, Tywin Lannister had Casterly Rock, but he had to assign a Castellan.
Oh, excellent point. Now, Brienne of Tarth is now wearing a raven sigil. Is it like a raven house? Because I know a lot of people are posting, yeah, Starks are on top. Yay, Starks. Holy crap, Starks. But isn't the raven his sigil now? The three-eyed raven or something like that?
Well,
or did I miss something?
Well, yeah, just kind of like Euron Greyjoy was the Kraken with the red eye. He's still a wolf. He's a winged wolf. But he's also the three-eyed raven. And every time somebody calls him Brandon Stark, he goes, I'm the three-eyed raven. So that's kind of how that's the sigil he took for himself. So yes, he's a Stark, but he's not a Stark because the Starks are in Winterfell. So he had to create another branch, basically. It's like a cadet branch, basically.
All right. Jim is saying 8 out of 10, and 2 for how the post-Danny portion of the episode went. We have Biggie saying 7 out of 10 bells. All right. And Bran, don't throw it to 20. Says Bran should be able to see his death and future attacks. He will be the most prepared king. Yeah, he is definitely going to be the most prepared king.
Exactly. He's got every single tool that it possibly needs, not to mention the fact that they obviously fudged on A Song of Ice and Fire the very first moment that they opened the book. So with that in mind, it has to be rewritten again, and who better to do it than a person who has the actual neutral history on the whole entire thing, just an observer. So we'll get the true story of Ice and Fire, which is why we have all the monologue for Jon Snow and Arya and everybody else in the actual books, because you're getting it firsthand view from Brandon Stark.
Danielle says 7 out of 10, which is awesome. Now, I did like the scene with their small council. I enjoyed that, even though some people thought it was corny. It sucks that Tyrion is not in A Song of Ice and Fire, the book that's laid out on the table. And I thought that book being laid out was confirmation that Sam was, in fact, the author. Because I know a lot of people were talking about Sam as the actual author of the story. And I was, who wrote it? I forget what Maester it was.
Eberros.
Yeah, so
the history, history and wars following the Five Kings, following the death of Robert Baratheon, or something like that.
Poor Tyrion's not in the book.
Exactly. So they have to rewrite it.
Also, don't throw to 20. It was saying we don't even know. We won't ever know. But Bran's curiosity about Drogon location is interesting.
I just read something that's interesting as well in Facebook chat, and I just want to clarify this. So, if I'm correct, you guys are saying that Jaime Lannister was a hero again in this final battle because he rang the bells. Is that correct?
Is that what you're asking?
No,
me?
I'm asking them. I'm hoping they'll give me an answer. They're saying that Jaime Lannister is the one who rung the bells.
I don't think so, because he was fighting Euron, and then he ended up getting to Cersei. I don't think he rang the bells.
I need to go back and look at that.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
My gosh! If he rang the bell, I mean, he was making his way.
If he rang the bells, and he moved like fast as lightning, like greased lightning. Because when you're looking at the bells in terms of where the Red Keep was, there's a huge distance in between those. Well, at least the bell that Tyrion was looking at. Maybe it was a different bell. And then when that bell rings, the rest of the bells ring, one starts and then they all go,
I want to just read off. We have a couple of ratings here for you.
Go ahead.
Tom says he gave it a 9. Irina says 9.5 out of 10 for the finale. Andrea says 5 out of 10. I'm torn literally in half about this ending. 9 out of 10 for the series. Let's see here. Joe just implied it was him. Who else would know after that? Okay. Well, that was Eric saying, yeah, again, he does think it was Jaime. It doesn't show him. It just is implied. Irina says 6.5 out of 10 for the season. 9.75 out of 10 for the whole series. Ray says 8 for the episode, 9.5 for the series. Eric says, love the meme. I don't know anything about that. But I need to know about these bells. I have to go back and watch now. I'm torn up about this.
So, out of all the people that lived, which I can't believe they lived. I can't believe that Tyrion lived. I can't believe Sam lived. Bronn? I mean, what the hell? Grey Worm, I thought he was going to be toast. I still can't believe that Jon Snow lived.
I think they did this to spite us.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to lie. Jon Snow is a character I enjoy. Don't let Jonathan Stolmos hear that. And I do pick on him, and I know I got hate mail for that too. When we pick on Jon, you have to understand 2 things. One, we talk to him in real life all the time. He's our friend. I've drank with him. I've slept in the same room with him. And all he talks about are the Starks and how he loves them. It would drive you fucking crazy. And if you don't think so, you're lying to yourself. It drives us nuts. But we love Jon for that. And I would never want Jonathan Snowmoss to ever change. And it's part of the fun of this podcast that we have someone to fuck with. It's all he loves is the Starks. So, Your hate mail is duly noted. I got it last night, and I'm like, come on, you're kidding me, right? You can't tell that we have fun with each other, then you got to have a problem. We're having fun. We all love each other. I mean, I like the Lannisters, and I get shit on, probably not as much, but I'm also the host, and I own the company. So you don't fuck with the boss. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't do that. You just don't do it. Randy says 8 out of 10. Awesome.
Andrea says 100 out of 10 for BTIT.
Thank you. And Big E remembers the projectile vomiting. And yes, John projectile vomited. He's going to be remembered for the rest of the history of Ice and Fire Con and whatever.
I think that Grey Worm living, I agree with Eric. Everyone keeps going on about how Grey Worm survived this thing. And I wanted to say the irony when I said that they did this to spite us, that's what I was referring to, is of almost every single character in the entire series, we were positive that Grey Worm was dying. Positive. And this fucker is like just kicking. So yeah. That was interesting.
It was on my death pool. It was on my death pool. Danielle says, I like Cersei. She deserved better than Rubble. Yeah. I loved her as a bad guy, and I'm surprised. Like, we're gonna do an episode about this later, but I am really surprised that that Cersei ended up being like the big bad towards the end. Well, sort of the big bad. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like, I thought the Night King was going to be the ultimate evil. I thought that this season was going to end with the Night King being like the very last battle, and the bittersweet thing was going to be like Bran becomes the Night King. Like, I joked about this the other night. Imagine if, the show ends and Bran's sitting there and he's doing his wheel creeper thing, right? And the camera goes to his face, that creepy look. His eyes go blue and then blackout, show's over.
You really did want that blackout ending, didn't you?
Yes. Well, I didn't want the Sopranos type. I wanted that as the black. Like, all the other closure, that all could stay the same. If they just did at the very end, the camera pans over to Bran, right? And then Bran's, he's doing that stare, that stupid ass stare.
Like a hybrid Night King who can look like he's normal, but really be fucked up, like ice person in their face.
And instead of doing the rolled up back eyes, like he's having a real bad acid trip, his eyes just go blue. And then like maybe a little bit of a cold wintry breeze blows by his face, and then that's it. That is the end.
Like you thought.
That would have been awesome. I like that.
On the bottom of the screen, no. You thought.
I'm not a writer. Thank God I'm not a writer. And I'll tell you why I'm not a writer. Well, I am a writer. I wrote a book called Quit Smoking Like a Boss. Go to quitsmokinglikeaboss.com and you can buy it if you want to quit. It's only $5 on Amazon. I'm not the best writer in the world. So good thing I did not write the Game of Thrones, because it would have been really, really bad. Little cheap plug that I do right there. Okay, so that's the end of the podcast. Andrea has one more thing to go ahead.
I just wanted to say that because you're not a writer, I wanted to say that a lot of people, since everything is done and over with now, first of all, people at my job understand how passionate I am about the series and the books and the characters and how familiar I am with them. And so they keep asking me how I feel now that everything is over. I want to ask you that question, but I also want to give my reply. But how do you feel knowing that it's all done now?
It hurts. We put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into this. And I love the show. I'm hoping that the books are awesome. The next couple books are awesome. I'm really looking forward to them. And I'm also thinking about what I got to do next. We are going to, and it's good that you brought this up, because the Facebook page is staying.
Yes, it is.
The Club BTIT is staying.
Yes, it is.
The podcast is going to stay for as long as I possibly can stretch it out. Eventually it's going to have to end, but we're going to stretch it out as long as possible. I'm hoping, I can't set this in stone, but I really want it to last another year.
I would like it to last another year as well, and I'm more than willing to help as any way that I possibly can, as far as like financially. I know for you it's about time, but even if that means like me, getting over myself and coming and just having you push play for me, I would love to be able, especially with the books coming, be able to come in here, especially like on YouTube and whatnot, because it's something that I know for a fact we can utilize. I'd love to be able to continue that, but also with the long night, if it goes into development, I would really, really, really like to follow that.
Yeah, for sure. we have plans, so we're not going to end anywhere. And before we do any ending or anything, we'll have something else for you guys to join. So I'm not going to be like, okay, podcast is over, eat shit. No, it's going to be, okay, guys, we're ending it, and this is the new thing we're going to do. So please follow us, because you guys have been an awesome community. Yes, I think that's awesome. You're willing to donate. Don't throw to 20. He says, I'm willing to donate. I want to see the podcast flourish. I want you all to get so big you get a table at Comic-Con.
So sweet.
Funny, I've been to Comic-Con before, as a vendor. Well, I was with somebody that I was with Robin Schoenberg Nichols. Her father was the guy that made the Rocky statue, and I was with them at their booth, and I was going around interviewing different people. It was awesome. But I appreciate that, and we're going to be doing. I'm going to be injecting ads in the podcast and see if that works before I ask you guys for money, unless I give you guys like affiliate links or something like that, something of value, because I don't want you to just I don't want you to just give money. I want to give you something in return. So the ads kind of make it easy for everybody. I know they're annoying, but you can fast forward through them, or you can use them, whatever. And or our Amazon affiliate link in the description of the podcast. It'll also be an Amazon or an Audible as well. So we're almost out of time, Andrea. We only have like a couple, like very few minutes left.
Yeah. So my answer to that is I'm okay with the ending. I'm okay with it as is, because this was just one aspect of a story that we still have to learn so much more about. I'm fully confident that we're going to get Winds of Winter, if not by the end of the year, early 2020. Also, speaking of Winds of Winter, there was an interview with George R.R. Martin where he basically confirmed that the show and the books are going to end in the same place, but they're not going to end in the same place, but they are, but they're not, but they are, but they're not. And then he went on to say that he expects between Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring there to be 3,000 manuscript pages. And to put that into perspective, I was just telling Chris that there are 957 manuscript pages in Dance with Dragons. So he said that if he has to write more, if he has to put more chapters in, etc., then he will do it. So with that in mind, you can expect roughly 1,500 pages in the next two books each. So that's something that I'm highly interested in looking into. I mean, Dance of Dragons was quite a read. So 1,500 pages, that's almost 600 more words. I mean, 600 more pages than I already have. So I'm okay with that. Also, I'm writing a fan fiction. And even if I hated everything that happened in this story, specifically the way that HBO told it, I can make it whatever the fuck I want to, because the books aren't complete. So with that in mind, I'm okay with it ending, because I am just as caught up in my fan fiction as I was with the show.
Awesome. If the book comes out soon, we'll talk about the book. We have a lot of podcasts showing a lot of podcast ideas for the show. Also, if you want to give us some ideas on what something you'd like us to talk about, debate, cover, email us behindtheironthrone@gmail.com, or hit us up on the Facebook page, or Club BTIT. Join Club BTIT if you're not. It's easy to do. We'll bring you in. It's an awesome community. That being said, thank you so much, Andrea, for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you on Thursday, the 23rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And it's going to be all about your guys' comments. You guys are going to comment. We're going to respond. The Nerd Movie podcast is called Nerd Theater, or if you want to search for it in any iTunes, just type in T, the letter T, the word nerd, and then T for Total Nerd Takeover. We are taking over the world, one nerd at a time. I haven't used that catchphrase in a long time. I'm just saying. I have a whole bunch of different podcasts in the nerd spectrum. There's the TNRT flagship show, the gaming show. There was Nerd Theater. I have an Apple podcast that we do from time to time. And we got some more stuff in the works. And of course, YesYouCanPodcast.com, where I'm going to teach you how to podcast if you want to learn how. It's not done yet, but the website is in construction, so you get a feel for what it looks like. Thank you guys so much. #BTIT. I love you guys.
Good night.
You guys are awesome. All right, so the podcast is done recording. We're still live
at 1 minute and 58 seconds
correct.
on Facebook. So good timing.
It's awesome. Yes, don't throw. It's Nerd Theater. Yep, not on YouTube. Yeah, that's just a podcast. I don't even do that live yet. Awesome, Shayna. I was thinking about doing a Wheel of Time podcast for the Books Impossible show when it comes out. I don't know. See what happens.
Everyone's saying bye and they love us on Facebook.
Yay! So we'll see what happens. I'm going to post the Get Vocal in case anyone wants to hang with us for a few minutes. Wait show. Oh no. Did I say wait show?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Did I post? Did I miss something? Is that?
Coming over to Get Vocal
Awesome.
for a minute.